Good afternoon. I'm Fraser O'Leary. I'm the Ward 4 member of the State Board of Education, and this is the Educator Excellence Committee. And we're going to share some thoughts on several topics. And I'll turn it over to Jen.
Sure. So the first agenda item is following up on teacher induction and mentorship. And we also heard some testimony on this at last night's public meeting. And Fraser thought it could be helpful to also kind of debrief that as well.
Right. I think that we saw a lot of reiteration of what the big problems are in both teacher retention and in mentoring and preparation for new teachers. Robert, what did you think about that with the panels?
Yeah, I think it just confirms that that's an important piece of the puzzle that we should know more about and hopefully work towards supportive standards. And so I hope we can move forward quickly on that.
Ben, are you with us or there you go?
Yeah, I'm able to turn my camera on in about 15 minutes, but right now, I agree with what's been said. I think we need a plan for being able to continue this work. And we need a timeline too of being able to advocate for this adoption in the upcoming budget. I think it's important. I mean, it was very eye-opening and alarming to me to see when you, Representative O'Leary, asked how many people had student taught or how many people had a mentor teacher, both of which I've had, and none of the teachers there raised their hands. So it seems to be a pervasive problem that hopefully some leadership can help to ameliorate, even if just a little.
Yeah, it needs to be just a big, because it really is an overwhelming problem. I mean, I was very fortunate as a brand new, didn't know anything about teaching teacher to have almost a whole. I was at Garnet Patterson Junior High School, and it was really some schools talk about the school family and stuff like that, but Garnet Patterson was really a family. And I was not a brand new, wet behind the ears 21-year-old. I started teaching when I was 25 years old. I'd already been in the Army for 4 years, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I was very successful as a student teacher at the school. That's why I brought it up last night. I was kind of shocked. We didn't get a chance to, there was only one panel. But I don't, I mean, I still in contact with student teachers that I had at Cardozo.
What do we think next steps look like?
We were talking about that report that you got on the other committee.
It was the report from the Learning Policy Institute, Representative Williams, that you had. I don't think it was for your committee. I think you had just received this from Chairman Mendelson's team.
Right. Yeah, no, that has some suggestions, but I think that I think we're still waiting for the educator workforce report from OSSE, but yes. I think we should darn, it's probably too late to ask leadership to bring that up with their meeting. Or no, that's the meeting with the chancellor. So I think we should make a note to ask them to ask Assistant Superintendent Mitchell about when we will get that again. And an email needs to be sent there. But I think we should move forward with coming up with a plan irrespective of that report, because we've been waiting for months, and waiting doesn't get anything done.
I put that on my list to talk to the chancellor tomorrow. I don't, I saw Roberts, I didn't. Um, but the one thing about the ending of that report is that there are some very good suggestions. How do y'all feel about having the people who did that report come talk to us next month at our meeting?
I think we should develop our ideas a little bit beforehand and then maybe schedule a panel or have them maybe come to our next committee meeting. I think that would
That's what
maybe
that's
be,
what that's what I, that's what I was talking about.
oh yeah, I think it'd be good for the committee.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about for the board. I was talking about our meeting. Is it,
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
okay,
Because this one is, it gets into a lot of the existing research, examples from other states. And some of the things that I think the committee had been thinking about and have had questions about. I also agree there's probably deeper dives that you all want to look into and more DC specific. I think that might be what you all are getting at, which is what Representative O'Leary was mentioning at the end of the report. They have these questions and considerations that
for
are,
DC.
yes, for DC specifically. And so maybe diving more, it's access and equity, and then induction and mentoring models are the two main things.
Also, Ben, we I was talking to Jen about cross-referencing your committee and us proposed having a resolution together. Now, I don't think that's ever, well, it hasn't been done, I don't think, since I've been on the, but I think
A
having this
resolution for what?
for the same thing, for a student voice as far as uh educators. I mean, because I remember what we've heard from students a lot is that teachers leave in the middle of the year, or teachers, or their classes aren't covered. The student view of what teacher attrition is, and what not a student view on um, the teaching of teachers, but more how teacher retention is tied into student achievement.
Sure. I mean, I think the SAC would be a good place to get more student voice on the issue. And we could, if you would, could, when we develop something, we could present it to them for insight to be able to like build the recommendations that we want to see.
Okay, because why don't we think about what we're talking about? That's something that we want to bring to the SAC and to your committee, maybe as um, support support for the resolution. Because like you said, Ben, nothing's being done. I mean, school's been in session for a month now, and it's the horse isn't out of the barn yet, but it's galloping towards the doors as far as truancy and chronic attendance problems.
Right.
Because we have students in the system right now who've already missed 10 days.
Sure, but to keep us on the same topic, Fraser, I think that I think a report is going to be more influential than a resolution. So I think we need to figure out what next steps look like with the report.
You're talking
And
about a report asking for outside resources report?
I think we need the clarity of what we've been talking about for months has been to, recommend what induction standards should look like for the city. So we need to figure out what we think our best practices. We need to be able to bring in voices, that can help inform that process. And we need to put forth a document that we can send to council and ask for them to also engage in a broader citywide discussion.
I agree with the urgency of it. It's just, what is it? What is it? What does it look like?
Yeah, so Jen, what do you think? What are your thoughts on the different responsibilities of that work between members or staff in doing that research? In the next couple of months.
Yeah, I think I was reviewing this Learning Policy Institute memo on new teacher induction and mentoring in DC again before this meeting. And it does, between all of the reports that are mentioned and cited and linked to, it is quite comprehensive. So I think my question is, what this committee wants to do that would be like complementary to this. And then that
Right,
would,
like not reinventing the wheel, but
yeah,
like
and then
trying
that would
to
help me
advance
kind
some
of,
of the
map out
some of the objectives.
Mhm.
Yeah. Robert, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm looking at that report as well, and I see that we're not entering into a vacuum, but I think the important part is that we gather together our recommendations as specific as we can and put that forth. And I thought, months ago, I thought we were considering, contracting out to have someone help put this together. I don't know if that's not on the table anymore or not needed, given that there's
Right.
some stuff out already that maybe we can
I guess
pull together.
The problem a couple of months ago was we were sort of basing our conversation on getting that report from Mossy. Remember, that was going to be like the base for our argument, and we still haven't gotten that report. Have you heard anything from Mossy, Jim?
I have not.
Yeah, and I think we can't wait anymore.
No, I agree. I agree. I don't know what I don't know what more we need to find out about the problem. I think we need to start working on how to solve it, because we know what the problem is. All
Yeah.
right.
Right.
And we got the stuff last night, just listening to the semi-veteran teachers that we had on panels last night. They were saying the same things. Impact is a problem. If we're talking about keeping teachers, and that's basically what we were talking about, keeping teachers past 5 years. And if we're talking about that, I mean, those teachers last night were crying for help as far as I was concerned. And they're engaged veteran teachers. But the system has beaten them down. I mean, I know I'm an anomaly, and I know Ben is too. All right. We can't wait to get to school every day kind of teachers. But having these teachers last night who were they have no tenure. Nobody has any tenure in DCPS, and they were crying for help. And just basic, it's the same thing with the contract. Not having a contract is horrible. Do we need to? I mean, because we're talking about effective educators. Do we need to do another resolution for a contract or attach that to
No,
what
I
we're
don't
doing?
think that would help, but I hear I understand that it's significant. I recommend that the path that we take moving forward is to do two things. One, I think we should work with Aaliyah and Bijan at the council to write a bill on calling for a task force on teacher evaluation and other non financial policy things that could help improve working conditions, both in DCPS and in the charter sector, like, you know, universal exit surveys, things that we've been talking about for years. And then part of that is, you know, to then figure out what form it takes to present recommendations for induction standards. And I think, Jen, to like your earlier question, like I don't think I think we definitely want to look at things that are lower cost, high impact, but just being able to articulate the benefits of each and find the research that supports each, and then being able to think a little bit about implementation so that if we have the council's ear with things, that we can support what we think will be impactful.
And I will share that Bernice, Executive Director Butler, and I have been, we just had a chat this week about, you know, hearing that members are increasingly interested in getting involved legislatively and, you know, knowing that you all can introduce and work with council members on legislation. Just, we don't have kind of a process really, as far as I'm aware, laid out for that. And so that would fall under my wheelhouse as well. So I am starting to think that through. So this is actually good timing.
Yeah, I'm happy to support it whatever I can with that. I do recognize it's somewhat uncharted territory. And I think
That's all right. That's how revolutions are made.
Yeah,
I mean, we definitely need a revolution.
And Bernice and I work with Bijan and Aaliyah frequently, so yeah, we have that relationship as well.
Great. Can we do you want to well, I'm wondering about this report though, because I know there's some valuable information in that report that will help us. Um, could I give you everybody a homework assignment to um, sort of go through that report again and pick out stuff, and then we could just there he is. You're not driving, right?
No,
And
just saying that
and then could we just set a couple of week deadline just to get back with things that you see in the report that jump out at you as far as mentoring and induction? Does that make any
Yeah,
sense?
it does. I mean, what's the most efficient process? Because we're gonna have to put some of this stuff in writing. I mean, should we email you and Jen? Is that are those the next steps?
Yeah, why don't we do that? But I mean, I should I assume that everyone's read the whole report, or should I just give you that as a homework assignment? It's only three of us. I've read it. But it's a nice read, and you can sort of read through stuff in there that's not pertinent to what we're talking about. But when you get near the end of it, when they make especially when they make the recommendations about DC, those are the things that we want to latch on to get something rolling.
Mm-hmm.
How about a week from today? If you see, if just commit yourself to, we'll commit ourselves to going through it and sort of picking out things that are important. And if we cross with each other, that's better. You know, if everybody comes up with page 32 is really important, then that'll make it easier for us. And you can send it to Jen, and I'll go through everything you send to me and collate it. I don't have a problem doing that at all. I like that. I'm an English teacher. I like stuff like that. Does that make sense? Do you got a copy, Ben? Well, everybody's got a copy.
Yeah,
Jen?
that's not an issue. And I'm happy to obviously explore some of the research. I'm just wondering, to like Robert's original point, is like, Jen, do we have money to like contract some of this work as well?
Well, not in this fiscal year, which ends on the 30th, but I imagine there would be funds yes, starting October 1st, but I would need to consult with Roma about that.
What are we?
Yeah.
What are we paying for?
Yeah.
Ben?
I mean, I guess the question that I'm wondering is just like, is how is state board research like created and produced? And I know
Well,
that Jen,
we did when I first came on the board, we did this big teacher retention survey. All right. And I forgot how much it cost, but it was a nice chunk, maybe $10,000, something like that. And it was very professional. It was a long report, blah, 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 but it didn't really, and it sort of covered everything, but it didn't really, the council didn't act on it.
right? But Fraser, that's our job to fight for those things. So like,
Yeah, I know.
you know, and that's what we're still doing. But we're just talking about the process of creating it, and you kind of affirmed the point, right? That like Mary Levy and other people were like paid to be able to do some of this research. So that's what I'm
Right,
thinking
yeah, it depends on the scope, right? If it's just reviewing some of the longer reports that are again linked in something like an LPI report, which goes into some of the academic studies or surveys or existing things, then that is definitely something that, with the support of the policy fellow and my team, that we can do internally. If it's something like what is going on with the Student Experience and Engagement Committee, where it's creation of, beyond our internal capacity of developing or distributing a survey or going out and doing focus groups or something like that, for example, writing a longer report similar to the one we did for healthy school facilities, that's when we contract out with a vendor. Was that helpful?
When we did the Healthy Schools report, we and the vendor did a fabulous job. And it was a wealth of information that we got from it. I wish we had the damn report from OSSI. So the biggest problem we had on the teacher retention survey was we couldn't get the information from the charters or from DCPS. They wouldn't give it to us. We had to go around the back door to get some stuff from the WTU. And that was really the only valid information we had in the report. I mean, it was valid, but it wasn't big numbers as far as the survey was concerned. I mean, and we know that getting information from any of the LEAs is hard work about anything. So I don't know I'm not trying to be negative about it. It's just that the reality of it is people don't have to answer the questions unless they're told to answer the questions by their leaders. And like DCPS people are scared to death. You know this, Ben. They're scared to death to give out information without an okay from the chancellor.
yeah, I don't fully think that particularly if it's just a survey and it's anonymous. But I'm just wondering if we need a survey to acknowledge the problem. I mean, we know the problem exists, but have we fully supported it with data?
So Jen, would you say we still need to define the scope so that we can determine what approach we need to take?
I would, yes, I think, in the LPI report, they do talk about like seems like a smaller sample of teachers that they did survey about the induction, or mentoring that they've gone through, if any. And so perhaps, again, if it's something we want, like, if the committee wants to expand on this and reach more teachers and get additional information, to identify where the gaps are, which would then help the committee make recommendations, that could be a good route.
Let's do a survey. Doesn't have to be a long one. And we could get it to all the schools. And we could do that in-house. Jen, could we do that in-house?
Potentially. I'm not gonna say yes 100% yet.
Yeah, so I think that's one thing to consider and to potential and to evaluate a decision on. And then the other thing, is I don't necessarily see us needing to do so much like independent research. I see it as kind of a synthesis of the literature that already kind of exists.
Oh, okay.
In terms of like the report. But like I'm also trying to think of the timeliness of it and staff capacity, but also like, Jen, like we were talking about last week, thinking about something for early next year so that we can have that aligned to, even just bringing it up at the State Board of Ed, DC Council breakfast so that it's on council's, radar, and then being able to produce something before the budget cycle.
When is the breakfast?
It's not scheduled yet, but it would likely be in January.
In this year? Not the school year, but will be in 2020.
Yes.
Because I'm just sort of brainstorming while everyone's talking about, because urgent problem that need someplace where the council can sink their teeth into it. And the quicker we get a hearing called, the better. Like you talked about, we all talked about the budget thing. January rolls around, all those council members are thinking about is the budget.
Right. I mean, for your point, there's potentially going to be a hearing on teacher retention this fall. So this would
Yeah, they typically do that mid to late, I think late October. That's when it was last year. So I imagine they would do it again.
I hope they don't do it when we're in Louisville.
It might be. I need to go back and look if it's on the calendar yet. But I can share that with the committee.
Okay.
Well, the other wrinkle seems to me from the LPI report is that Aussie says that they're doing something already, and we don't really know much about what that is. So
I will
you're
take it
talking
on.
about induction, Robert?
yeah,
I'll
So-
call the superintendent today about that. If y'all don't mind, I don't mind doing that.
it's fine with me. It says in the report that they said last November that they were launching a 3-year coaching initiative. So we don't know where that stands or what that looks like. or if it was funded.
To get that report. Was it June? Before the end of school? Jen, do you remember?
Can you repeat that, please?
The report from OSSI, weren't we supposed to see that in June?
I think they had said summer of 2024.
Oh, right, summer, okay.
Yeah.
So depending on the weather, that could be right now, right? The sun's hot and it's still summer. Well, I'll let y'all know what I found out. I'm in a meeting. I'll call you back. Okay, okay.
So what do next steps look like?
I've captured a few of them. The committee has questions about the educator retention data. And the last meeting with Dr. Mitchell, I think that was September 9th or 10th. So you all might actually see her at the working session before the next leadership meeting, if she's coming to the next working session. Members,
Why wasn't she there last night?
she was out of town, I think maybe at another commitment.
Got it.
Members review the LPI report. I think specifically, where are the pieces that the committee would want to expand on for potential research, including a survey of teachers about their induction or mentoring programs. I am mapping out a process for any type of legislative collaboration with council. And those were the main action items that I'd captured so far. Am I missing any?
I think that's quite a haul.
It is. As usual, I have a lot of work to do, but I will follow up with you all on all of this.
So I'll remind you about is a week enough time to just go through it and see what you find?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I will reread it. I'm happy to do that. We can do that by the end of next week.
Okay. The other thing that I want to bring up is cell phones. I talked to Robert last night, and Ben, have you talked to any of the other schools in Ward 1 about?
I have. I mean, I can also bring that up in my committee, Fraser. Do you feel like it's an adult issue or a student issue?
I think it's an adult. I'm looking at it from a teacher standpoint. All right. I think the whole cell phone thing is the distractions that having phones in the classroom, how it keeps students from being able to learn. Now, what I've
Yeah.
found, and I've talked to half of the schools in Ward 4, and almost all of them have a cell phone policy. There isn't any kind of universal cell phone policy um, at all. And I think that that's where we should go with this. It's not mandating any kind of a specific policy. It's just a matter of looking at it from a standpoint of not the students shouldn't have their cell phones in the classroom.
So you're saying kind of like guidelines with flexibility for implementation?
Yeah. I think there should be, I hate to use this word because I don't think I've ever used it, autonomy for all of the schools or the LEAs. But there needs to be a specific goal, and that is that there shouldn't be phones in the classroom. And if you talk like Robert talked to Pace, right? To Phelps. And Phelps has a policy. Robert, you tell Ben for what.
Yeah, at Phelps, so the 9th and 10th graders do not have their phones during the day, but 11th, 12th do have access.
Which is really confusing to me, but you know, that's the kind of that's what Phelps wants. You know, and there are schools that don't have. I mean, I've been in schools where kids are on their phones in the hallway, so they don't. And I've been in schools where they have to put them in those bags, or they have to put them in carts or in lockers or whatever. But there needs to be a recognition of the learning time loss when there are phones in the classroom. Do your students have phones in the classroom, Ben?
Not this year. We use holders that they put them in at the beginning of every period. So they're in the classroom but they're not accessible
Right.
during the classroom. I mean, so what does this look like? A resolution?
I think so.
I mean, I'm in support of that. I don't see any problem with that. I mean, but I think the thing too, right, like is maybe getting some input and working a little more collaboratively, seeing if the PTSB wants to weigh in on this. And also saying, I know that the chancellor was asked about this on the Kojo Namdi show, and he kind of said that he wants to let all schools kind of make their own decisions. But you know, uh, it's only hurting students by not taking bolder, clear action.
I agree. And I would posit the idea of having do we need to have a panel at one of our public meetings?
It seemed at the last working session that was what people wanted.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I thought our conversation at the working session was very helpful, just to hear all the different viewpoints. But they were all, I mean, it seemed to me that most of them, maybe the vast majority of the opinions in the room, all sort of came back to the same place that any phones in the classroom on. You know, when the chancellor comes up with something like that publicly, that's just an abrogation of power to me. It's not, you know, you know, but that's him. Um,
Well, in that case, the members have to vote on that topic for the panel.
right.
There might be other topics, but if the members do vote for a panel on cell phone use in schools, my suggestion would be to do the resolution after that. So then, because a lot of times I know the members use what you all hear in the testimony to inform what then goes into the content of the resolution.
No, I agree. I've talked to several people in different sectors, charter and public, who would love to testify about
Do
it.
we have a month in mind for this? We should make a proposal to the whole board if we're gonna do this.
I'd like to do it at ASAP.
So October will be graduation requirements. And then you all will vote the full board at the working session on October 1st on the next topic. So it's up to you. Like it'll definitely be voting on November, and you could also vote on December as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean,
I need to put it on the list.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes, please add it to the tracker. I would appreciate it.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I
Those are
think
the-
Jen, I'll kind of stay like in a holding pattern with just figuring out what the process looks like for working with the council on proposed legislation. I do think that we need to show clear and bold support of revising the evaluation system, advocating some of the things that still haven't been passed in the Data Warehouse Act, and some of the other marginal elements that can help get clearer data around teachers leaving. It's hard because I feel like we've been spinning our wheels for a while, waiting on council, and we know a lot of these things. So when you have an update on that process, I would love to work on how we can use it to advance some of these things related to retention.
Absolutely. Again, between this and the nursing resolution last night, it's top of mind for me. So I'm going to start thinking about it in the next week. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's it from me also.
Okay, thanks, Jen.
Thank you
Yeah.
all.
I have no new ideas or no new topics. Thanks,
Thanks,
Great.
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.